Welcome in. OutKick 360, ready to go. Alongside Chad Withrow and Paul Koharski, I'm Jonathan Hutton. The crew is all here. Lance Lee is back. Jakob Swanson. And David Reed, the chairman of the board, ready to make the show happen for you. You can interact with us on Twitter at OutKick 360. A lot to get to today. The NCAA has approved the one-time transfer. We'll discuss that coming up. Also, quarterback investment by teams across the NFL. That and much more, including the Tennessee Power Hour, an hour from now, right here on the OutKick Network. But first, gentlemen, good morning.
I'm pissed off for greatness today. I'm coming in hot. I'm not going to lie about it. Some Twitter interactions got me going, got the blood pumping through the body. I'm ready for a big day. Paul, typically you're the one pissed off for greatness, but it's me today.
Well,
Paul, good morning.
Good morning. I had just a disastrous night last night caused by this plug. Right over here. I don't think you can see it in my shot. Trust me, it's right over there. And, often as soon as our show is over, we're engaged in a riveting conversation. And I think yesterday I was engaged in a riveting conversation with Hutton and Jacob. And so I unplugged the cord from my computer, but I did not unplug the box from over here. And alas, I left it on the ground here.
So you had no power.
So I had no power, and I had a lot of work to do. I had a Blake Bedingfield file. You guys know these weekly files with scouting reports on prospects are big. There's a lot to do in terms of putting art in them and editing them down. So I have one full battery, and that's it. And so I was like, well, I'll get to Simon's baseball practice. I'll run over here. I presume this is where the cord was. But then it looked like rain. I'm like, well, if it pours on this practice, the kid's got nowhere to go. So in my car, you guys know, in our old situation, I had to Zoom from the car sometimes, and I had bought a setup where I could plug the computer in the car with my adapter into the car adapter thing. And I'm like, okay, I could work in the car plugged into this car adapter. And it'll charge up the computer, so I'll be set. So I worked through the hour and a half practice. Got a lot of work done. Also wanted to set up the Mike Vrabel video that I've got him live on later today, 5 o'clock. Get home, leave the computer to charge in the car, the whole thing, eat dinner, come out, get the computer, it's got no charge. Like it kept it alive, but it didn't add any charge to it. So until 10 o'clock, I'm sitting in my driveway with the car running, working. Fun times.
Did anyone think that you were trying to commit suicide or something in your car?
Check the muffler.
There's
you
a guy.
You were out of the garage, so that's good news.
There's a guy in Aston.
It's not parked in his garage, and the muffler's clear. So,
Yeah.
Sir, can I help you? Someone's knocking on your
I wouldn't
window?
have been surprised. So I was quite upset with myself, and at least I had that. Otherwise, I would have had to come back here, which isn't that bad of a voyage. But once I decided not to come, then I was like all in on not coming. So I was all in on the car. Leather seats, at least.
Well, here's quickly what has me upset. Hutton, you brought this up yesterday in our Tennessee Power Hour. We talked about the Titans not tweeting something out of congratulations to Eddie George, an acknowledgement about him getting the TSU job, and just how weird that was compared to the Cowboys' response, which was way over the top, to call him a Cowboys legend. And this wasn't a lot of people.
Which was ridiculous for them to do.
Most people just retweeted it or liked it, and some people said, that is weird that they wouldn't do that. No one was over the top angry or anything, which is fine. Not that we were over the top angry. We just brought it to everyone's attention that in fact was the case. And the people who defend their team at all costs, I'm not talking about the players and the coaches and what happens on the field. I understand that now as a fanatic's psychology, that you're going to defend your team against anyone that you perceive as attacking your team, your guys, right? I get that. But we're going to go out of our way to defend the social media department for the team? Like if I saw that news, I would just respond if I were a fan of the team and say, yeah, that is weird. Why don't you just tweet something out acknowledging it? Or just not comment at all. But to go that far all in, that you're not just with the players and coaches, but when the social media department does something stupid, we're going to have their back too, even if they do it. That's very odd to me. That's a part of the fan psychology that I haven't even encountered yet.
Well, they shotgun beers with him in the pregame parking lot.
That's one way to one way to get someone's loyalty.
Nate Bain is the head of the social media department, and he he's very good at his job in some ways. He's endeared himself to his bosses and to the fans in some odd way. I don't know. Social media people have.
And it could just be these are like his 5 friends. Like these could be minions of his that are coming after us with this. That is a possibility.
But
it's not going to stop me from pointing stuff like
no, of course not.
Of course not.
But the guy can do no wrong.
It's going to make me want to say it more. Like today, we're opening the damn show talking about it because people are fueling me now with this idiocy about this. Like that's it. To your point, Hutton. Yeah, I'm going to say it more now if people are going to have a problem with it.
But that's
how this show operates.
The guy can do no wrong. I mean, he shotgunned beers with fans before a game, which doesn't strike me as professional behavior from somebody who's got at least semi-executive role with the team. That didn't seem to rub anybody the wrong way. He used to take shots at us on our radio show, and we were the affiliate of Titans Radio was, the Zone, and he would regularly take shots at us. We were fine, we're big boys, we didn't care, but that's not something an employee of the team should be doing. It's untoward, and that was his thing. So I don't know. He an odd bird to me.
Well, I don't think it doesn't take a genius to understand what we're saying. When you bring it up, Hutton, or we tweet it out.
It was obvious that it had been overlooked in a massive way.
I think
it's either a
way.
massive oversight.
It's not an oversight because they retweeted something from TSU. So they thought about it. It was on their radar.
Is it the end of the world that they don't tweet about? No.
No.
And someone said, when I see this happen on social media, I just assume they're working on something much bigger. And if you guys are going to overreact over a few hours, it was Sunday. This was out there. The news was out there on Sunday.
The only reason I brought it up.
It's Thursday, and they still haven't tweeted about it.
I was going to bring up the Cowboys as the primary complaint yesterday for claiming Cowboys legend Eddie George is now the head coach at TSU. And to compare, I was going to go to the team that he's actually remembered playing for.
As a legend.
Who had retweeted the TSU headline, and that was it. So at least the Cowboys did something. That was good. That was my overall point yesterday.
And we're
at least they did something on social media.
And we're separating social media from editorial. Jim Wyatt had a story out shortly after our show, which I'm sure was coincidental.
Jim Wyatt has a lot of respect for Eddie George.
Well, and he was working on something, and something else came up behind the scenes for him, which is fine. But
life happens.
I'm not talking about a story on a website as much as I am just acknowledgement of something that's bigger than Sheamus winning a WWE title at WrestleMania.
Yeah, and social media is immediate. The other element is not necessarily immediate. I didn't write about it immediately either. But I also don't work for the Titans.
Guys, I thought of David Reed late last night.
As you often do.
Not for what you're thinking.
As you often do.
And not for the reasons you're
thinking. I
thinking.
feel like you grow a beard, and then once you have a beard, you have these sort of visions and dreams of other men with beards. Speaking
of WWE, this also reminds me of like a kendo stick fight. The very rare public golf course fight that I found on Twitter. We could see it now on the screen that's about to play. We tweeted this out at OutKick 360. You guys are seeing this for the first time.
The gentleman's game.
Yeah, the gentleman's game. The shirt has been ripped off. Now, instead of just fighting back, the guy goes to the green, pulls the flag stick out, and starts whipping this guy with it.
It's now a Renaissance festival.
Now, both of these guys lack some fighting skills, right? Like this is something that maybe is on the prelim card for the Logan Paul fight that's about to happen on Saturday night.
Thinness as well.
But yes, yeah,
I love the blonde
very
woman
realistic.
That comes in to break this
I
up.
bring it up because it's very realistic, and I also saw this and thought, is this what David Reed would look like angry when this was sent to me? What do you think, Paul?
I think David Reed would be more.
Is he the puncher, or is he the guy that's going to grab the?
Oh, he's definitely with his pro wrestling background, the guy with the flag stick.
I think he would be more.
Look at everyone standing around too.
More controlled. Oh, it's
Again,
quite a
my
audience.
favorite part
You
of the video.
tickets to that.
There's lots of. In fact, this woman right here, a blonde woman that comes in at the
What
end.
is she holding?
Oh, I haven't noticed her
What
yet.
is she going to do? Is she with the golf course? Or is she on another?
Yeah, she's got a hand up. She's like, hold it, gentlemen.
It looks like she may be just a.
Excuse me, sir. I have your Bloody Mary.
Yeah.
She may be in a twosome on the other hole.
Fellas, Bud Lights are 2 for 1 right now.
Just that.
Sir, I have your hard seltzer.
Yeah.
It's ready to go.
She's like the sash and a flashlight.
I love
like
the slight hesitation and then the decision to go grab the flag stick.
It's really, I mean, this guy's playing chess and not checkers because he's trying to lure the man to come in and engage him where he can punch him in the face repeatedly. And the way to do that was to whip him with the flag stick. So then instead of running, he charges the man.
Yeah.
And then he punches him repeatedly in the face. So it's like that was what got him over there. It's almost like you're trying to get a wild animal away from your kid, and you like lure it over and get it to chase you, and then you get it out of the way.
Slam the door.
The flag stick served as an apparatus to bring him closer to him where he could physically engage him.
Here are my 2 thoughts on flag stick guy. Okay, first off, he comes initially and he's holding the flag stick really almost at the base of the flag stick,
Right.
which gives him too much flag stick. Right, you can't control the flag stick with that much flag stick. But after the initial swing, I don't know if he does it on purpose or it's from the result of the swing, he ends up choking up on the flag stick, which is a much better technique.
Like
because,
there's 2 strikes.
Yes, like there are 2 strikes. He's now protecting.
He's not bunting.
He's protecting the plate, and he's got better control over the flag stick. But what happens is his combatant immediately gets close to him, which takes away the very weaponry of the flag stick, because once you're inside the flag stick, the weaponry of the flag stick is lost.
Hey, is there a way to turn the volume up, Lance, on this, Jacob? I want to listen to the contact made and the last second
whipping
decision by the guy who's being hit to jump out of the way. At first, he decides, as he watches this guy, I'm assuming they're friends at first and they're fighting now.
We're friends.
In my mind, they were friends prior to this fight.
In your mind.
They're golfing together. He decides to stand there. Watch, he decides to stand there as the flag stick.
We got no sound.
And here comes the whack, and he decides to jump out of the way last minute, and he probably feels the brunt of this more because, as Paul's saying, the guy choked up and he got hit with the end of this.
I'm thinking with the whack, with the whoosh that I'm imagining. Can you give us some fakes? Can you guys make the sound effect of the whoosh? Thank you. That's much better than you're doing with the sound.
This is like the dude from Police Academy.
No,
back
I'm
here.
thinking.
So these guys combine skills. They can make any sound.
I'm thinking.
Now do a giraffe. No, just kidding.
I'm thinking of the guy who's lashing himself in Da Vinci Code. The albino lasher.
Oh yeah, for the religious. Yeah.
Paul Bettany.
Was that
the
him?
actor? I believe. Yeah.
Really?
Vision.
Wow, you can pull those out.
Yeah.
Paul, do you want me to help you with your earpiece live on air?
No, I know that I'm holding it up. I'm holding it on a hope.
Okay, I got you.
I just wanted to tune in for the.
Well, we need more info that we can then relay to our viewers and listeners, because I want to know the genesis of the fight, what caused the fight. I want to know the origin of the 2 women that walk up in the end, and they get right in the mix. But they're not physically trying to break. It's like they're talking to them about stopping the fight, but they're right there in the middle of it.
And did these guys end up drinking together at the 19th hole?
Now we have audio of this. Now we can.
Now we do. Now I can.
You're about to
hold
hear
that up.
the whack here in just a moment of. Yeah, so we have it cranked up now. And everyone's standing around. David Reed taking a few punches here.
The trash talk continues.
Can't hear her.
Yes. And I'm not sure what he threw at him there at the very end.
It had to be a beer can.
Was it a beer can? So.
Now we're back to the start of it.
Yeah. So here comes the flag stick.
Here comes the flag
We'll actually be able to hear it this time.
Here we go. Oh, better contact than I thought.
Oh! Boy, the thump on the first punch also was equal to the...
Here's something that we haven't covered. What's the genesis of this fight? I thought you gave me that putt. No, I didn't give you that putt.
That's what I said. We got to get more info on this to find out where this fight started. And I want to know, I want to interview the blonde woman who walks up in the end just to get her mindset as she approached this fight.
It's the very rare golf fight, though. Like, that's something that happens in church league basketball, but you'll never see on a golf course.
Jacob, you're a golfer. What's the biggest fight you ever had, and what do you think instigated this whole matter? If you had to guess, write us a beginning to this story.
He has no idea.
I've got nothing for
These
you.
are not the questions you asked Jacob. You let me question Jacob.
Oh,
all right?
okay.
I know
You're
when to
a
go
good
to Jacob.
questioner,
Yeah,
Jacob.
I'll go to Jacob with a question. That was not a Jacob question.
Jacob has
and I
told me in
also am
the
willing to
past-
bet there's a lot more golf fights that take place that aren't on film just because it's guys drinking all day.
Well, in a
Well, they
bar,
have
though,
cell
like
phones.
afterwards when you're settling up a
Oh,
bet.
I think there's some shoving and pushing
I
and
don't
shoving will
know.
happen on the course too.
They have cell phones. I was thinking the same thing. It probably happens more often, but then I thought anything that happens now is filmed. So if they're out there, we'd see them.
Chad, you've been not involved in a church league fight, but you've been at a basketball game where a church league fight broke out. I remember you coming in one morning and telling us about this.
Oh, I've
Because
been
half your team got suspended.
I've been in multiple. I haven't fought,
The
but
church has shut it down.
well, Ron Slay played on
Yeah.
my team, a Vol legend, and he at one point. The best way to describe it is like ran from one half of the court to the other, and like you would booty bop somebody, you know, back in middle school, if you ran up and just like threw your butt into them. He threw the chest. He went chest first and chested a guy across at least 15 feet.
How small?
Like
He's got
cartoon.
much smaller than him because
As is everyone.
he perceived the guy as taking a cheap shot and trying to cut Slay's legs from under him, I believe was the start of the fight.
Doesn't sound wise.
But yeah, I've been involved in I've seen some melees in church league basketball. But everyone's seen
I would
that.
think the church would be upset.
Oh yeah, the church gets mad and they'll throw you out. There's been teams suspended
Yeah.
for the rest of the season because of it. And you're not getting your money
I
back.
want to
either.
meet the person who's the liaison between the church and the league. That's not a fun job.
I've never come to blows in a
this the
basketball
youth
game, but
director?
I've been, you've squared up with
Is the
people
youth
before.
director the guy that has to be the in-between?
Oh, usually it's just the one ref that's there, right?
Oh,
the one
the
ref,
solo ref, that poor
and then
guy.
you've always got like one college kid that's keeping score, that like goes to the church, right? That's making a little bit of extra
Yeah.
money, and that guy's like he's angry crying as it's going on. You know, he's like,
come on, guys.
why do you guys have to do this? It's a church. You know, it's just the guy's like completely beside himself. Why? You know,
Nancy Kerrigan.
the guy in middle school or
Sounds
high
like
school that gets
Nancy
so
Kerrigan.
mad he cries.
Yes.
We always had the buddy that
Yes.
he, instead of fighting, he would like get so angry he would cry.
Yes. He tenses up and goes limp very quickly.
That was the dude at the scorer's table that's like motioning for everyone to get out there. Just get out of here. This isn't a place for this.
Mr. Lebowski with an excellent question that we had not considered. Is this a play-through situation?
Maybe that was the woman. She was kind of saying, "Can we play through?
Can we go?"
Are you guys done with this right now?" V-Love on Twitter says, "We won't apologize for anybody shotgunning beers at the D spot before Titans games. You should not apologize
He's
for,
an employee.
for fans
It's working.
shotgunning beers. Yes, never apologize for shotgunning beers at the D spot for fans. Again,
If you're wearing a lanyard that says
Yes.
employee, it's an issue,
well, if you have work responsibilities for that game,
which he does. Certainly.
I would say it's definitely an issue.
It's turned into a job requirement.
Yeah. Now that's what gets people to defend you on social media.
Hit us up on Twitter at OutKick360. You can also follow us on Twitter, but also share the YouTube feed, subscribe on YouTube, and find us on Facebook as well. I hear we're back on Facebook today. which is
We
great.
are back.
Ask Jacob about
Hello. Hello, Mark Zuckerberg. We're back on your platform.
We
Thank
are
you.
back on Facebook Live and back on Facebook to let you know about Manscaped.com. 20% off plus free shipping. Manscaped.com with the code OK360. Chad Withrow has the box where your balls will be thanking you for the 3.0 trimmer, among many other things in here, Chad.
Yeah, so you've got, now I'm looking at the box that we have. You can get 20% off this with that code. I've been going to the items that are not in this box, but this box is great, so I want to highlight some of them. How about the crop preserver? You can get that in this box. Of course, you have the trimmer.
With a
the light.
flashlight.
I've spoken about the
With the
trimmer.
flashlight.
It's a
Sounds like
ergonomically satisfying feel. in
Sounds
your
like
hand.
that.
This is the perfect
That's what it
package
sounds
like.
3.0 that Chad is pointing
Yeah,
out.
what it
there's
sounds like.
so many great products in here.
Is that pronounced flashlight or fleshlight?
See, these are the types of things you involve Jacob in, like this right here, not golf fights. These
He's a
are
golfer.
these are the
Jacob
things.
is an expert in one of those. We'll let you
Yeah.
decide which one.
Jacob hasn't been a golfer since 2004.
20% off and free shipping with the code OK360 at manscaped.com. OutKick 360. Follow the show at OutKick 360. You can do that on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. You can also find us on podcast wherever you download your podcast. And at the Twitter feed and through the link tree that is attached to the top of all of our pages, you can find the link for the 360 Masters, which is coming up on Thursday, June the 10th, all to benefit the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Thursday night, June 10th, where we have 17 bays at Topgolf for OutKick 360 season ticket holders. You can join the fun. Just sign up today. We have 4 or 5 bays remaining. I saw another bay purchase come through for charity this morning, so I'm not sure if they purchased 1 or 2. I'll have to go back and look, but we have 4 or 5 left. So a handful left if you want to get involved. Thursday night, June 10th, join us at Topgolf Nashville, all to benefit the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. The headline today across college sports, and this is expected, but the NCAA will officially allow one-time transfers. And there are roughly 1,400 players in college basketball that are in the transfer portal right now. They have until May 1st to jump into the portal if they're not already there. And that's for fall and winter athletes. That includes football. But we are about to see free agency galore. And there are critics of this decision. There are those that are all for this decision. But regardless of what side of the fence you're on, we're about to find out just how much of free agency we're about to see. And how much that if you're afraid of this, we're about to see why. Or why not? Because the recruiting is going to pick up even more so over the next 2 weeks.
Well, so this falls under a category I'm going to say a lot on this show, and that is 2 things can be true. 2 things can be true with this. One, it absolutely makes sense for the student athlete. It's good for them, makes total sense, gives them more agency to make a decision and then admit that it's a bad decision and go somewhere else and seek happiness in another program at another school for another coach, whatever it may be. Just like a coach who's getting paid can decide to leave whenever they want and go take another opportunity and go coach somewhere else. But here's the second part of this. This is not a universal good thing or a universal bad thing in my mind. It's good for the student athlete. It's bad for the sport. There are a lot of things that we like about, we compare the NFL to the NBA in this respect. We as fans like the control the teams have over the athletes. We like that they have to play and perform to get paid, that they can get cut at any time. These are things that the Players Association would not like, and they've done a bad job of protecting their rights with this. Now that this is happening in college football, let's keep it specifically to college football, men's college basketball at the highest level. This opens up a free market to where it's going to hurt the sport overall because the players are now going to have way too much control. What I mean by that is this is not going to be all the time. This could be a rare moment, but players can dictate to the coach exactly what's going to go on.
Terms.
If they're upset about getting benched in one game for loafing or making a mistake, that player's immediately in their mind going to go back to, man, I had Bill Self recruiting me. I had these guys recruiting me out of high school. And I came here to play for this guy because I thought that he wanted what was best for me, and I'm going to go. Now, there's going to be plenty of reasons to leave. Playing time. Guys are going to transfer down. We're seeing that a lot in the transfer portal. Tennessee's lost transfers. They're all going down a level for the most part because they weren't playing at Tennessee. That's great. You can go somewhere else and start. Good. If you're a guy who's playing at a smaller school, you're doing well, and you get a chance to go to Duke or North Carolina and finish out your career, great, if you want to take that opportunity. But if you're a guy who goes somewhere, gets upset one time, and makes an irrational decision based on that and leaves, it weakens the sport. It weakens college coaches also. Now, you could, on the flip side, say it strengthens those who are really good at building relationships and keeping guys happy, and it weakens some other coaches. But I just think it's a scenario where 2 things can be true. It's what's right. It's what's best for the student athlete. And if we're looking at what's best for the student athlete, this fits the bill. It also weakens the sport.
I worry about the Wild West element of it.
And there's going to be a lot more of it.
Too many people in it. And I think I wonder about the math of it. For every kid that's got a reasonable reason to leave, how many are being impatient or are listening to bad advice? Maybe know that they should stay or have an inkling that they should stay, but are hearing from parents or relatives or friends, man, you got to get out of there. They're not treating you right. You're not getting enough minutes. You're not getting enough shots. You're not getting enough whatever. And there's a lot of bad actors in college sports, or hearing from a booster somewhere else. Hey, if you come here, or a coach somewhere else. Hey, if you come here, you get all these false promises that go on in certain kind of recruiting, and you're reopening that. That said, I also wonder about the future of it. I want a kid to be able to get out of a bad situation without huge consequences. But where do you draw the lines, and how do you shape the parameters for it? After we see what happens here, could there be some good that comes out of it, and how do you shape those rules? It's a tricky situation.
Well, the NCAA and the SEC allowed that one-time blanket transfer waiver due to COVID, now I'm a believer that this has been going on behind the scenes for a while. You just don't have to sit out a year, you did have to sit out a year to do it.
Which
now you don't.
Yeah,
this
that's
will
a big
change
consequence sitting out a year.
Well, what it does, for those that this is going to change the landscape of the sport, it will in a way, because there are some. I do think there are some, believe it or not, decent human beings and coaches who try to follow the rules and the landscape of the structure. And then there are those who don't. And I think you have to change the way you recruit right now, or you're going to lose those current players. You have to re-recruit certain players that are on the fence within your own roster, within your own team, your locker room.
It's happening right now at a lot of places. But also the ability just to leave spring practice one day and drive down the road to another SEC program and join their spring practice the next.
Yeah.
And enroll in school. Some of those things, again, it's not going to happen all the time, but players now have the ability, if they're fed up with a coach or they're angry about something, you get enough guys banded together that want to walk at the same time, you can blow up a program. Yeah. You can ruin the season. You can say, well, hey, good luck now. 30 of us are leaving all at once and scattering around the country and going elsewhere.
So let's just say on average, 15 teams or 15 players are on a college basketball team. There are reportedly 1,400 players in the transfer portal right now. That's enough to field 93 teams of 15 players each. Right. This practically, we're going to see a lot of musical chairs here.
But how many of them, there's a lot of math. Well, like I said, how many of them are fringe guys that are non-factor?
Yeah, they're in the portal to test the waters or whatever it might be. And there will be more. They have 2 more weeks to decide whether or not to do it or not.
Well, the good news is, especially in basketball, you can completely reinvent yourself from one year to the next.
Sure.
You can completely turn over your roster. If you don't like what you saw on the court, coaches have the ability, this guy's not going to play, this guy's not producing, they can go somewhere else. You bring in a totally new team because that transfer portal is going to be stocked every single year. Football is the new one. Basketball is really trending that direction now. With the ability to do that in football, it's a little bit different. It does put a premium on coaches' ability to bring in the right type of people for their program that's a cultural fit, to have a culture that's pronounced, to bring the right players in that fit that culture and what you're doing, and to keep them there and keep them engaged, and walking that fine line, Paul, of not treating them like a baby and not telling them what they want to hear and being their coach and being a disciplinarian, but also not running everyone off because you're such a hard liner.
Right, guys who are going to want to stay in your culture who you're not going to have to re-recruit like you're talking about. Because, I hate the power dynamic, so I don't want the coach to have so much power that he's, controlling these kids or has vendettas against a kid that wishes he wasn't there anymore but can't get out. But I also don't want it to flip to the other side like you're talking about, where if 15 kids want to leave a football program, they can cost a guy his job, maybe not for the right reasons. In some situations, a coach who's not handling the program the right way should suffer the consequences. But where's the balance there in terms of the coach doesn't have to constantly be recruiting his own team? I don't want that scenario.
That's going to be the scenario at a lot of places.
I don't want that. But I also
don't think you have to do it
scenario
at Bama if you're Saban, or if you're a program like that. But you better believe Josh Heupel at Tennessee is going to be sucking up to a lot of his players.
Right.
And they're going so they can field a football team on Saturdays and everyone doesn't leave.
He's also
Well,
going to
I'm
be doing
thinking
that with players
basketball.
in the portal right now.
Yeah,
that come
and
join
it
him.
eliminates the de-recruitment.
Yeah.
You know, the coaches always joke, we recruit you, we get you there, then we have to de-recruit you and tell you how bad you are to get you to work hard in order to play. It eliminates that process.
But
now
I
for
also
most
don't
programs.
want it on the end where the coach feels like, if I don't kowtow to these kids, they're going to get me fired.
Yeah,
Welcome to the NBA.
Yeah, right. That's the other
it's a
extreme.
great point.
So you got to find some kind of balance. And do I trust the NCAA to figure out what that balance is? Absolutely not.
It amazes me how easily NBA players can have their coach fired.
It's like Borat.
They control everything.
Or no, the dictator.
Yeah.
And that's what would happen. Instead of having an entire team leave right now, wouldn't the college just get rid of the coach to keep the players?
Yep.
That's the NBA model.
Depending on how successful the coach was, but yeah, that would probably
How
be the
solid
case.
your program, how solid your AD, how solid's the roster.
Right.
And you're also playing that guessing game of, well, if I've got 10 guys leaving the program, can I go get 10 bodies that are leaving other programs, to come in, even if they're not as good, to keep a roster healthy?
I know a good long snapper / linebacker.
Yeah. And that this is the situation, and this happens with coaching changes all the time. But now it's just going to be more a coach gets fired or leaves. Well, you're leaving immediately to go somewhere else and play right away. Before you had to factor in do I want to leave and sit out for an entire season?
And as you alluded to, football is a bigger deal in terms of continuity. Basketball, you change out 3 guys, they could be up to snuff in no time in your system, right? In football, especially if you're a new coach, year 2, you need some continuity. If you have that kind of turnover, you're starting from scratch in year 2 again.
I think there will be a lot of assumptions made that plans are now being formed now for 2 weeks from now, right?
Right.
I think the smartest coaches and programs have been planning for this in anticipation that this is going to happen. There's a reason there are nearly 1,400 players already in the portal because they expected this to happen. So my guess is the best coaches, the top programs, honestly, some of the worst programs should have right now a plan in place of the players they're taking on to fill needs. I think if you go into this with the idea that you're going to take care of all your recruiting issues and this is going to be your focus, I think you're setting up to lose. I think you in basketball and in football, you take one or two, a handful of players for need-based results that can come in and help you immediately. And that would be my focus as a program. My energy and core values would still be focused around the high school recruits.
We're also leaving out, I only made a small mention of families, parents, right? And I think you want to recruit out of families where the parents are going to say, son, you're making a commitment to this guy. If he follows through on his end, you're following through on your end, and you're not going to run if times get tough. It's a long-term commitment deal here unless something really goes awry.
That's certainly part of it. And I would just caution people who think the money will always be there, right? Can you get too fat and happy for your own good and just make assumptions about things? I do think the long-term residual effect on this is a negative for college sports in that one of the things that college sports fans love about their schools is you associate the players who are there for 3 or 4 years. Mm-hmm. If there are fewer and fewer players that are there for 3 or 4 years that you associate with some of your favorite players, basketball, football, whatever it may be, then it does eventually have it's a culmination of all these things that go down where you're not as interested in your school. You're not as interested in your team as maybe you were before. It's going to take a while to get there. We're going to need to see the results of this rule also first before we make any broad sweeping assumptions that it's going to be this way for everyone. But it does hurt.
How much of one and dones hurt?
It hurts. Ask Kentucky fans. There is a large segment of Kentucky fans that hate the one and dones.
Yeah, but if you're winning a national championship in exchange for it.
Well, I don't look at it as the early one and done. I think it's the reverse one and done, where you get a guy that hasn't been the star on his current team or is like the sixth man, and you have him come in and give you a boost on your. This is not just for basketball now. We've seen coaches at mid majors do the reverse one and done and have the redshirt senior come in for 1 year and be the leader of a team, and then you just rinse and repeat over and over again.
Yeah.
We've seen it work in basketball. Now are we about to see it work in football? Are college coaches across the football landscape going to be able to find those types of players
going
that
to
come
saving
in?
a program?
And you'll know by May 1st how your roster sets up going into the fall.
Well, it makes it, to me, this is a much better rule for basketball for this reason. The bigger programs that can get big-time players can really take some chances and cycle in a bunch of guys each year.
Yeah.
We're seeing it at Tennessee right now.
Yeah.
Well, if those guys don't work out, if Devontae Gaines and Drew Pember and E.J. Inosicki don't work out, they can always go to UNC Asheville or George Mason, where some of these guys are transferring, or ETSU, right? They can go there and star and get playing time and be a player there. But it works in the reverse way, too. If there's a guy at George Mason who's lighting it up and Tony Bennett and Virginia want that player, well, then they can elevate themselves and go start and fill a need for one of these other teams because there's less bodies involved. The problem in football is you rely on developmental guys who may not see the field until their junior year, that are going to be depth guys until then, because you have to have bodies to play football. Are those guys going to stick around for 2 years at Ole Miss or Arkansas or Tennessee or Vandy and not play? Or are they going to decide to try to go somewhere else that recruited them where they think they can play right away? Because in college football, you need those guys who are character kids that stick around, and maybe they don't start until their fifth year, senior year.
Well, this goes to
they're there the whole time.
This goes to what Hutton was saying about the quality of the program. Hopefully those kids, if you're a fan of that program, right, if you're that kid, you've seen the classes ahead of you, friends of yours, go through that. You've been, on the bench, then you've been a special teamer, and you've grown into those roles. And you've seen your friends do that and have success with it and enjoy their time at Ole Miss or wherever. Probably not turning into a pro, the kind of kid that you're talking about, right? But have a good college experience and a good career as an NCAA athlete. And if they've seen that in a good program, then they want what my buddy who was a senior had when I'm a sophomore. If you've got a good program and you lay that out for them, then you have it. But if you've got a scramble all the time going on, and we've heard a recruiting story where a guy took a guy to midfield and said, like, hey, you've had a great recruiting weekend here, but you don't want to come here.
Coming up, we'll discuss the 49ers and Rams and the decision that the two teams within the same division made this offseason about the direction of their franchise at the quarterback position and which one we think actually will work quickest. We will discuss that decision and how it impacts as a ripple effect with the trade value for the quarterback position across the board. That's next on OutKick 360.
Periodically, we're going to tell you a little bit about what's on the shelves behind us. This is Greg Nettles, my favorite player of all time. Greg, spelled like Craig, but Greg. Now, a lot of you are very unreasonable about your favorites. This is where you could get to me. He's my favorite. 77, 78 Yankees, tremendous. He won Gold Gloves both years. Led the AL in home runs in 77. Gold Glove winner Aurelio Rodriguez in 77. Come on. Buddy Bell starting in 79. Come on, Buddy Bell.
How did I meet John Hutton? I don't really recall meeting John Hutton. He was always sort of around. You may know him as Jonathan. Some know him as John. I call him Hutton, one of my best friends. I can tell you about the time, though, that we really formed a deep bond. That was in a hotel room in Phoenix. It was during the Super Bowl. We're both under the covers, separate beds this time, and we're watching an episode of The Real Housewives of Orange County. We watched that episode not once, but we watched the episode after that, and then another episode, and then another episode. And before you knew it, it was 2 a.m., and we were bonding over Real Housewives of Orange County in a Phoenix hotel room. That's when I knew this John Hutton guy is pretty spectacular.
One of the many things in the OutKick 360 background here at Blackbird Studio is a tribute to Sergeant First Class Nick Moses, who served in the 5th Special Forces Group out of Fort Campbell. He had been deployed 3 previous times to Iraq and was a member of Operation Enduring Freedom, headed for his 4th deployment in Afghanistan, and as he was starting his 4th deployment, was killed on March the 15th, 2012. We started the show March 15th, 2021, and friends of Nick's asked us to display Nick is Here each day during the show. We do this proudly. This is a tribute to Nick Moses and to everyone who has served, will serve, or is currently serving in the United States Special Forces, the Army, the Marine, the Navy, Air Force, wherever you may be. Thank you deeply from all of us. We truly appreciate all you're doing for our country. So a big trade that happened across the NFL before we even started the show, which today's day 24 of OutKick 360, was Matthew Stafford to the Rams. We're about to go through the price tag that they paid, but there were 3 teams that Stafford's camp reportedly had shown interest in from his standpoint. The Indianapolis Colts, who would not trade their first-round pick, which is pick 21. They picked 1 spot ahead of the Tennessee Titans. They would not part ways with pick 21. With the Lions. There was the Rams, who of course he ends up going to, and he also was interested in going out west to play for the San Francisco 49ers, who, to my knowledge, never made an offer, and if they did, it wasn't even close to being competitive, but they paid virtually the same price to move up to pick number 3. So they've chosen to go with the rookie over the veteran Matthew Stafford. As we compare the prices, the Rams sent 2 first-round picks, a third-round pick, and Jared Goff to the Lions in exchange for Matthew Stafford. And the 49ers sent 2 first-round picks and a third-rounder this year in exchange to move up to draft their future quarterback. Now, they keep Garoppolo, but they didn't make an offer for Stafford to begin with, and they trade the same amount of first-round picks to move up those spots to get in position to draft their quarterback that they choose worthy of pick number 3.
Well, the one difference, the 49ers kept, it stayed in the first round, right? I mean, they traded 12 to get to 3. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, so they're in the first round at pick 3.
right, the Rams didn't have a first rounder this year to deal with to Detroit. So Detroit doesn't have anything in the first round to get Goff instead. Goff, to me, is a non-factor in this trade. I mean, they're going to be looking for a quarterback. I think they should be looking for him now. They're going to wind up looking for him next year after they discover for themselves that Goff was, at his best, a product of McVay's offense, I think. So I'm on the Stafford side of it. It is odd how similar these deals are, and it's a good topic.
And the 49ers knew that Stafford was interested in going out west.
Yeah.
And it's the same division, which makes it even more intriguing.
And here's the other thing you would say, well, the difference in salary is going to be significant, right? The rookie's going to be far cheaper. Well, the rookie is going to be cheaper. But Stafford's numbers are not outrageous. Stafford's cap this year is $20 million. That's a reasonable cap number for a veteran starting quarterback. 23 next year, then 23 voids, the 2023 void. So he's under contract for 2 years at 20 and 23 against the cap. Very reasonable numbers.
Is that virtually what they're paying Garoppolo in San Fran?
Yeah, I think Garoppolo's higher, more like 25 and plus. I'm on the Stafford side, proven entity, great arm, going to allow the Rams to push more than they've pushed.
Oh, yeah.
And the Rams, look, they've got an interesting strategy here. They're a pickless team. They're not. They haven't had a first-round pick in some time. They're not going to have a first-round pick in some time. They dealt for Jalen Ramsey. They've dealt for Stafford. There was maybe one other guy that I'm forgetting. I think they're going to go a 6-year period here, 5 or 6 years without a first-round draft pick. And if I'm a fan of the Rams, I mean, fans are always calling for these outrageous trades. Sacrifice the picks. Go get the players. Well, here it is. Let's see if it works.
Well, and it's a win now versus win later approach is what it looks like to me. I prefer the 49ers approach in trading up and getting that third pick and building around a franchise quarterback, whoever it may be at that point. But I don't also look at the teams and think that one is necessarily built for a Super Bowl now versus the other. They're both good teams, right? So it's not like the 49ers are in total rebuild mode. But they need to go get a quarterback.
That entire division is very
It's
intriguing.
stacked. So to me, that's the two different approaches. It's get the proven guy now, give up a lot on the front end, but let's have a window here and make a run at a Super Bowl. And then for the 49ers, it's clearly they feel like they don't have their guy currently, so let's trade up in the draft and go get a franchise quarterback.
It's not like they're choosing Trevor Lawrence.
Right, that's the thing.
For Matthews. They're choosing the third quarterback in the draft over Matthew Stafford.
It's Jones, it's Fields,
right?
Lance.
So as you evaluate that decision, at the time, people didn't think they were going to keep Garoppolo as they traded up, and I think this is a sign that they in fact are. I don't expect him to get moved on draft weekend.
Well, they've said that they're keeping him.
Yeah, but
we'll
people
see.
don't believe that. They're like, don't buy. Those are hollow words.
I don't know that there's much of a market for Garoppolo. Like, who's looking for Garoppolo right now?
Well,
Chicago's made its move with Dalton. Like, the Patriots have made it pretty clear that they're not in the market for him. Those reports have been pretty strong from pretty strong reporters in New England. So who's the team? The Panthers have made their move. So who's the team?
Well, we also don't know, does Kyle Shanahan love one of those quarterbacks? Or are they in love with Mac Jones or
Well, they
Trey
clearly
Lance
are. They're not
Justin
making that
Fields?
move.
I don't know why
if he
you
doesn't
trade what
love-
you trade.
love something.
Right. But point being, I mean, they could be looking at it like, we got our starter this year. There's no learning period here. We believe so much in one of these guys that we're going to roll with them now on a good team.
And also, the only reason you have to move, or you would want to move Garoppolo, is the finances, right? I mean, that's a good backup quarterback for a rookie. As soon as you move him, then we've got to find ourselves an assurance. Who's the guy that started some games for them? He's still probably under contract. Not Beathard. Who's the other one that had a little bit of success? I'm sorry, I'm forgetting his name. They might have a third quarterback that's
C.J. Beathard's out there. They drafted
reasonable.
him.
Yeah,
Mullins?
then he got hurt.
Mullins?
So if Mullins is there, he's a capable backup. If you have to play somebody a couple games, you don't want any of your backups starting a bunch of games. But Garoppolo could.
Garoppolo is, to me, that's the best opportunity to win now. The question is, how long is now? Like, how long is the window
It's
before?
always the question, right?
Yeah. So, like, if you're drafting Justin Fields at pick number 3, or Mac Jones. Well, everyone thinks it's Mac Jones. But if Shanahan wants to run that boot action, you get the quarterback out of the pocket and throw on the move, that's Justin Fields, right? That's Trey Lance. But we'll use Fields as the example. If you're wanting to groom and mold that quarterback, isn't it great to have a Garoppolo option, even if it's for a handful of games until you have to insert the rookie, because the record will dictate that. The question is, how long does this last with Garoppolo as the guy making the money he's making with the price tag that they just paid to move up and get their guy?
And does he stay healthy, or do you have a situation where Garoppolo is in there until he gets hurt, like Tyrod Taylor did?
Yeah, but you know how I feel about that. Like, does he stay healthy? Of course. Like that. The whole health. If Jadeveon Clowney can stay healthy, he'll be a great player. Of course.
Right. But with Clowney and with Garoppolo, they have injury histories where it's not if, it's when.
Right.
You know, there's always the if. With these guys, there's the when. Garoppolo just doesn't stay healthy the way Clowney now doesn't stay healthy. I mean, so that forces your timetable with the quarterback instead of letting you choose it.
Don't we like the Rams situation at quarterback in terms of new QB? Just immediately.
Yes.
I think the Rams offense becomes, it's been a good offense when Goff was at his best. He's fallen off and clearly couldn't take them to the next level. Now Stafford with that arm takes them from short and intermediate to everything is on the table. And I think a McVay offense with everything on the table is very intriguing. I'm very anxious to see what that looks like.
Well, they have a semblance of a run game there, which he didn't have in Detroit, and a defense.
Which they definitely did not have this last couple years in Detroit.
But the 49ers are also like, I brought this up. I was on with Clay for OutKick the coverage yesterday, and he was asking me about how I felt about the way the quarterbacks stack up. And I said, it's hard for me to look through the lens of just the quarterback. I'm comparing to the team we think they're going to. So if you tell me any of these quarterbacks are going to play for Shanahan and the 49ers, I feel a lot better about that situation than I do the Jets, who have their pick ahead of San Fran and any quarterback they want that's not named Trevor Lawrence. It's hard for me to look through the lens of just the QB. Because I think Shanahan has a lot to do with, just like McVay will do with Stafford.
Yeah, I mean, there are certainly strata of coaches now, and the coach who can elevate a quarterback is at a premium. He's always been at a premium, and he's at an ultra premium now, and those are certainly two of them. And one of them is going to have to be patient, and one of them's got everything open to him on opening day.
A lot to hit coming up in the Tennessee Power Hour. The Tennessee Vols recruiting on both the basketball and football front. We'll discuss the biggest headlines from today. Also, a Titans draft discussion about positions of need, and of that group, which positions we would be willing to gamble on for the next 12 or so months until the next NFL draft. All of that and more straight ahead on OutKick 360.
How did I meet Hutton? Well, Titans Radio used to send out a swarm of interns to training camp. Most of them were completely inconsequential. They just leaned in on interviews and stole quotes. But Hutton was a little bit more substantive, and he wasn't scared of me. All of them were scared of me. So we struck up a little bit of a friendship, and then we had sex. He was at the radio station all the time, and I was working more and more at the radio station, and we came to figure someday we're going to have a radio show together. I thought it'd be with Joey Kent.
You can find OutKick 360 content 24/7 wherever you download your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts. We hope you'll search out OutKick 360 and like, subscribe, and give us a rating. 5-star rating as you scroll to the bottom. You can write a review as well and check out all of the content. We're going to post full shows immediately following every show, plus interviews, conversation, and exclusive content, and more. Just search out OutKick 360 on Apple Podcasts.
How I met David Reed. He was around the radio station all the time, and I thought he was a great guy. We wind up in conversations and stuff. And then I won a suite to Nashville Predators game, and Hutton and Withrow were both doing high school basketball championship games, and I needed somebody who was a co-representative of the station. Reed wasn't our producer yet, but I invited him, and I thought, this guy plays softball, he'll come out and drink some beers with us. Found out that night Reed doesn't drink. But turns out his fiancée, the lovely Lindsay, was in the box, so I was really Cupid in terms of getting them together. And we've grown to be great friends. Couldn't be more thrilled that he's at OutKick 360 with us. One of the greatest guys you'll ever meet, and so skilled at what he does behind the scenes. He's a bigger part of the show than anybody knows.
It is time for the Tennessee Power Hour on OutKick 360 alongside Chad Withrow and Paul Kuharski. I'm Jonathan Hutton. David Reed is the chairman of the board. Lance Lee and Jakob Swanson make the show happen for us. We haven't checked in on the crew down the hall with Emma and Becca and Sleepy Dan, but I'm told that Danny is up to his napping ways, guys. I'm told that continues.
Well, I was thinking, we need to take Emma and that crew out for drinks at the very least, for all they do for us. If we were going to do anything
here's
for
the
Dan,
update yesterday.
we'd get him a blanket.
For those that didn't join us yesterday, we caught Danny napping on the job.
He's not invited.
And then this was yesterday on the couch right next to the work area there.
It looks so peaceful. It also looks painful, the way that leg is dragging down on the ground. That could lead to like a leg asleep type scenario.
Well, there are like pods now. Well, pre-COVID, I think we had a topic on this.
Yeah,
there
sleep
were
pods.
employers.
Google was big on this.
There were employers who were installing sleep pods, so their kids who they were hiring straight out of college could go nap.
I've got a message for Sleepy Dan.
All right.
Wakey, wakey!
Your eardrums are welcome after that, if you're listening.
Does he go by Daniel, Danny, or Dan?
Don't care. We'll call him whatever we like.
Dan. We'll call him Dan.
Danny boy.
Oh.
Danny boy. Okay, Danny boy.
Danny Slumber.
I mean, listen, I'd give a guy, anybody with the company, anybody anywhere. I've always been big on this. If he wants to be called Muhammad Ali, we'll call him Muhammad Ali. But not if you're asleep.
Put that photo
you're
back
asleep,
up. If you
I'll
don't
call you
mind.
whatever I want.
Here is the sleeping on the couch. I mean, the couch is there for Dan.
How's he employed?
Old Danny Slumber.
Yeah, apparently he does great work. Again, I said yesterday.
Great work.
Hey, I said yesterday. It takes it takes some sack to show up to work, and then take a nap at work. You must be doing a great job for the work to get done, and for your abilities to stay up all night and do whatever you're
I don't
doing,
think the work's
and get work done.
I don't think the work's getting done.
If you were so productive that photo right there is the result of your productivity, then you can stay. Then you can continue working.
I'm getting different indications
Different
about
vibes?
the productivity.
Yeah.
Well,
Either
Facebook
way.
is back up and running today.
Yeah, he didn't do it.
Oh, okay.
Mark Zuckerberg.
By the
did
way,
that.
we will have phones available at some point. But in the meantime, we're going to show you a picture right now of why we don't have phones available to call over the show.
Yes, here it is. Here's
and
our reason.
the reason behind
There
it
it
is this
is.
right here. It's Danny
Danny's
There's our
running
phone.
the call
on
center.
the couch.
Yeah.
Danny's at the call center right now. So if you're calling into the show, this is why you're not getting through. Danny is in the middle of his daily siesta.
So we once had a show intern.
It's very European.
We once had a show intern.
Jacob's got something for us.
Jacob,
all.
napped on the job and got so upset with us that he quit. Hopefully, Danny isn't the same way.
No, I'd be okay with
Jacob,
it.
your thoughts?
Well, Danny just jumped in on the YouTube comments here.
Oh, did he?
What's he
Okay.
have to say?
Is he our new David?
He says Sleepy Dan works for me.
Okay,
Sleepy
good.
Dan. Okay.
Sleepy Dan, I like that.
I'm going to call you something else then.
Well, he's awake.
I don't care. He's
Danny-
been asleep.
Danny,
What's going on with the glasses here?
Danny's awake.
What
He was
that?
reading.
Was that just
I
a
was
quick?
reading.
Okay, yeah. I didn't know if that was like a new thing that you were trying out. I was like, what's
When I
going on?
read, I put
Okay.
them on, and when I don't read, I
didn't
put
see
just
them
the
on.
way they were
what's
up on the
wrong with them?
head
What was
was
different
new.
about them? Are they new?
They were kind of up top. Well,
Well,
no.
I rotate between a couple different.
No, they're
pairs.
fine. No, I didn't see
agree.
them on. I
No,
was
the
just
glasses
curious.
are fine. I'm saying he had it in an angle, probably just got hung up on the dome.
Might have.
You had it at an
Oh,
angle that
you
was
have them
different.
on.
They
than
were
usual.
up here.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sometimes when you're reading, well, it was a tribute to Sleepy Daniel.
His neck is stuck that way from working in the car all night.
Yeah. Leave me alone. I got a lot of angle issues.
Paul
for
actually
my
deserves
home office. For my home office.
Paul deserves a nap, is what we're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, Paul, you're very jealous of Sleepy
In
Dan.
my original home office, Sleepy Daniel. I'm calling.
Sleepy Dan.
Exhausted Daniel.
Instead of the exalted, he's the exhausted.
Yes.
Yeah, he's
Daniel
not
the
exalted by
exhausted.
me. You guys are far too easy on him.
Look again. If Lance and Jakob sign off on the guy, then that's all.
I don't have they
I haven't
signed
met
off on the guy. I missed
haven't-
that. I must have been out of
I
the
haven't-
rules.
Silence
haven't met
is
him.
deafening from these guys.
Been out of the
Every
room.
time we ask them to sign off.
I mean, I did go to the bathroom
We like
before
him.
the
He's
show.
okay. He's good. As you can see here, let
Yeah.
me bring this up for you.
Go ahead.
As you can see, he does have an earbud in, so he may be at least partially.
What do you think he's
working.
listening to?
Yeah.
Is he listening to the same music that Jakob would be listening to?
Listen to the white noise.
It's Enya for sure.
Big into Scandinavian artists right now is what I hear.
Yeah,
about
working his
Sleepy
way
Dan.
through all of the Scandinavian countries.
Chad Huntley Hatfield
Yeah,
is
someone-
official at Tennessee.
Someone who may need a nap is Rick Barnes from all the recruiting that's being done.
Ageism.
No, as you can see, you don't have to be old to take a nap, as Sleepy Dan has showed us.
They get paid for it.
So Rick Barnes in Tennessee, this is twice this week now they picked up a big-time big man. Jonas Idu earlier this week from Charlotte, North Carolina, a top 100 player. And now Brandon Huntley Hatfield, who was a class of 2022 player, top 10 nationally, I think 5th nationally in 2022, 5-star. He reclassifies to 2021, so he'll join Tennessee this fall. And he's 19th ranked in 2021. So they had to re-rank him for this class because he reclassified, and he's still a 5-star, 19th overall player. Great player, ready-made sort of college basketball body on him.
Hard not to be with that size.
Yeah, Jonas Idu, though, is 7 foot, and he's 210 pounds and just very, very thin and needs to add some weight. Brandon Huntley Hatfield looks like he's ready to come in. And this is going to be one of those things where is it Hatfield Huntley or Huntley Hatfield? I'm going to go back and forth. Huntley Hatfield comes in, is going to be ready to play. You want to talk about transfer, not just with Tennessee, it's not transfer rule. Guys are transferring out. They've only brought in one transfer in Justin Powell. But with the recruiting class coming in, this is a completely reworked roster. Outside, really, of Josiah Jordan-James.
Is it 7 new players?
Yes, there's going to be 8 guys are moving out, and some graduate. East Pond's leaving.
Right.
2 guys leaving early. I think there's 4 transfers out, so 7. And then the freshmen they're bringing, there's now a class of 4. This will vault Tennessee into the top 5 for sure of recruiting classes. I saw the very early preseason polls, they were outside the top 25 in a few. I think with these additions, they'll be top 15
We had
nationally in most every poll.
You shared one scouting report description that we'd never come across before, football or basketball, that we were fascinated by, that I think deserves on-air discussion.
We were laughing before the show about Huntley Hatfield because there was a description for Brandon. We weren't sure if it was a compliment or a cut down.
I think it was intended complimentary.
All these scouting reports are generally.
Well, it's from our buddy Jerry Meyer here in Nashville, son of legendary former Lipscomb head coach Don Meyer, college basketball legend. This is the scouting report from Jerry Meyer, who does this for 24/7 Sports. Does a very good job. I just love reading scouting reports sometimes, but this is what he had to say about Brandon Huntley Hatfield. Has a quintessential power forward body with length, strength, and density. Power-based athlete. High-level body control for a player his size, can score from all three levels, very comfortable with the ball, has functional ball handling skills that produce buckets and scoring range, can get a basket efficiently, loves to go left as a righty. His ability to dominate his area as a rebounder, improving as a defender, is a proper area of focus.
The word that struck us was
density. That's a new one to describe an athlete, high-level density.
And we're not thinking
so if he's
that
got good
meant
density,
mental.
if you're trying to visualize these players, if he's got great density, Jonas Idu does not have that density. He is light as a feather at 7 feet tall, but skilled. He's a guy who can step out and shoot threes at 7 feet tall. He's got good game with his left and right hand, decent ball handler for a guy that's just got to get bigger. Huntley Hatfield is more of your he's someone that was looking at comps of him. Julius Randle was one that came to mind when he was at Kentucky. A powerful, power-based player. Can shoot the mid-range jump shot, too. He's going to wear number 2, Grant Williams' number at Tennessee, what we assume will be his 1 year in Knoxville, because he's probably a one-and-done player.
I think this will begin me asking each time you bring up somebody heading to Knoxville, how is his density?
Yes.
Football, basketball.
Is he dense or does he show great density?
We should get Jerry Meyer. Once Sleepy Dan gets the phones working, we'll get Jerry Meyer on the line and just ask if the athlete has density or not.
Is it possible, because what we have learned here is that OutKick has spared no expense on the number of cameras that we have here at Blackbird Academy and Blackbird Studio. We have 5 cameras in here. Is it possible to get a 6th camera just stationed at Sleepy Dan's desk in his workspace? I don't even know if as his employer, not us, but as his employer, are they allowed to say this is your desk, or do they have to refer to it as a workspace for Sleepy Dan?
See, the problem with that, Hutton, is I think that it would be Sleepy Dan responsible for getting that camera hooked up. So it's a real variable as to whether or not it's ever going to get accomplished, right?
Well,
we're going to have to rely on him to make this happen.
The simple fact that he sleeps on the job and remains employed today tells me he does a good job. I don't know how else to assume that he would be a poor performer if in fact he's been documented sleeping at the office twice and still receives a paycheck.
Yeah, there's something, it's like the greater the talent, the more tolerance you have for off-field behavior, or if you're an actor,
Pac-Man stuck around
you get
for a
away
while.
with things if you're really good at your job. This seems a lot like Sleepy Dan. He's so talented and so good at his job that he's allowed to sleep on the job.
I'm not going along with any of this.
Paul's out.
I'm out.
Paul's out.
Out.
We do have a live feed of Danny right now.
Okay.
Good.
Here he is. There he is. There's the live feed.
It's amazing. He seems to wear that same shirt and pants every single day.
Yeah, that's a popular. He might keep. Was that a sweater? He might keep that sweater at the office.
Do we think that couch is clean?
Let's put a black light on that couch.
I've seen dirtier couches. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, I know the one you're talking about.
I've seen some dirtier couches in my day.
Hey,
I've been kicked out of better homes than this.
Let's sneak in a quick Vanderbilt note here.
Yeah.
I was very impressed that very quickly, after firing Stephanie White, and very quietly, seemingly, they hire Shea Ralph as women's basketball coach over there.
Women's
basketball coach.
Yep.
A long-time Gino Ariema assistant. That's a good hire to me. She's been chief lieutenant for inarguably the best coach in the game for a long time. She took over for him when he was out with COVID, and has seen the best caliber women's basketball up close for 13 years in the co-pilot seat. That's a good hire.
Well, it shows me that Candace Story-Lee and Vanderbilt had that deal done before they fired Stephanie White.
It's very quick,
they had plenty
very
of time since Stephanie White's team quit on the season. That's what they did. They quit.
They also
to make this move, so they did their due diligence.
She had 1 year left, and they were not extending that.
Yes.
So the writing was on the wall. It was just,
her contract, I think, ended around this time. Right? Like, I think that's part of it. Like,
No,
whenever she was hired.
she had a year left on her current
Oh,
contract.
had a year. Okay,
White.
yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
So they got it down to a year.
They got it down to a year, and they were not going to extend the contract, which as we
they
know,
often
in
do at
college
Vanderbilt.
sports, you extend the contract for recruiting purposes.
Right. They didn't fall for that garbage.
Yeah, they're not doing that. And then I think the stars aligned, so to speak, where you knew you were moving on. The question was, are you moving on now or a year from now?
Yeah.
And the coach came available
who likes and respects the program
Right.
enough to come. And I think it should be a good program, right? It's been a good while. It's been 2 coaches worth of it not being a good program.
Yeah. It should
But once
be.
upon a
yeah.
time,
Melanie
it was a good
Balcom
program.
had them, Sweet 16 level for a time,
and
too.
Jim Foster
was
way
great.
back was
Chad, can we tell the
terrific.
story of Melanie Balcom kicking you out of the Memorial Gym?
Oh, yeah. Story time with Chad. Camera 3, please. Thank you. So we would play in these pickup basketball games called the Lunch Bunch. And Drew Maddox was a part of this. Various other local celebrities. It was really a cornucopia of local
Let's not be
celebrities.
rash.
Yourself included. Myself included. excuse
Okay.
me.
Yeah, yourself. Hutton, you were there. You
Hutton
didn't know.
was
I
there to
feel
see
like I
all
was
of them.
there. I've heard this so many times.
So one of those celebrities, Frank Wycheck, good friend of ours, good friend of the show, former Titans tight end,
didn't
former
know he
talk show
hooped.
host. He hooped, and we met one day outside of the Memorial Gym to go to the Lunch Bunch and play a game. Now, we did not know at the time the Lunch Bunch was playing in the practice gym of Memorial Gym, so we went up into the upper staunches, if you will, of Memorial Gym, way up top.
Into the clouds.
Right, way up top. And I think we're actually waiting on them to open the practice gym. So we're just waiting there to enter through the top of Memorial Gym. And we're watching just a walkthrough practice for Vanderbilt women's team. And about 5 minutes in, maybe not even that, we're just sitting there talking very quietly, not interrupting anyone. And a student manager walks up to us, looks at myself and Frank Wycheck, and says, guys, Coach Balcom is asking you to leave. You can't be here. No one can be here right now. So at this time, I'm probably 24, 25. I just do as I'm told and get up and start to walk
Very
out.
obedient.
And Frank kind of played the, oh, really? I mean, come on. Does she know who I am? You know, I'm big time here. That's all right. Big practice going on. I get it. All right, I'm out of here. So then we had to leave the gym.
Dockage/Wycheck.
Yeah, with Dockage kind of bled in there. But so then we had to leave the gym because Melanie Balcom didn't want us watching a very important practice that apparently we were taking notes on. Yeah. There was nothing important going. I think they were practicing free throws at the time. Like they're all on different goals like you do in practice.
Lefty or
all
right?
right, 20 free throws for everyone. They're over there practicing.
You
and
out.
Someone kicks us out. That's my interaction with Melanie Balcom.
How about tell us of your interactions with Stephanie White?
Zero. I've had no interactions with Stephanie White. I actually was at there was a soft opening of Del Frisco's Grill in Nashville that I was invited to, and Stephanie White was there.
Chad loves a soft opening.
Stephanie White was there getting free food and drink from Del Frisco's Grill.
As were you,
Well,
getting free
that means
food.
she's
I do like
relatable.
the hire, though, Paul, to follow up on what you said.
It's a
and
good
I like
hire.
that they went about it and they had their hire before, you know.
No
before it was
lists, no nothing.
Yeah.
An announcement of a hire. Boom.
Which that's a better way of describing it. That is why I read the tea leaves and think they were going to sit
think you're
around for an
absolutely
extra
right.
year and let that contract expire, and because of this, they decided we got to make a move now.
Well, it's similar to what Mickey Allen did at TSU, right? Knew it was over, told the coach, kept it quiet, and went about hiring Eddie George, you know, before all this was done. So I mean, I like that when you can if you can go about it covertly and get the yes from someone, then you make the move.
I think Clark Lee, the developments going on over there, building wise, and yes, Shea Ralph, things are trending in a nice direction at Vanderbilt right now. I
What about
think
Jerry
it'd be
Stackhouse?
hard to. Well, Jerry Stackhouse was before the Candace Story Lee, right?
Yeah, but
he's
Story
on
Lee has not
Turner's record.
hesited to fire hires that were made.
I don't have a
before.
problem with him getting another year, but I'm not putting him in what's trending now since she took over. She deserves some credit right now.
At
I'll give
least
it
over
to
the
him.
last week and a half, we've seen
He's
Stackhouse,
shown a pulse.
Yeah, with the
The
recruits.
recruiting.
He's done more than block local media members in the last 2
That's
He
years.
right.
He's got a
deserves
couple
more
recruits.
time. Look, I don't know that I'm ever going to love him.
Well,
I don't
here's-
like the way he carries himself necessarily, but I didn't like the way Kevin Stallings carried himself either, and I came to like him as a coach. I didn't love his sideline demeanor and all of that, but I did like the way
Well-
they could run an inbounds play and get a damn shot.
Here's the difference, though. Kevin Stallings had done light years more in coaching
Oh,
before
absolutely.
he even got the Vandy job.
Absolutely.
I mean, Kevin Stallings was a hot coaching commodity when he was at Illinois State, going to multiple NCAA tournaments while he was there. The issue I have with Jerry Stackhouse is the guy, from a coaching standpoint, was born on third and acts like he hit a triple to get there.
You're not wrong.
Because of who he played for. I don't get it. I just don't think that's the right mentality. But here's the thing. He has shown a pulse in recruiting lately. But I think Vandy needs to be top half of the league this next year to show true development with that program. In year 3, they're going to have a tough time doing that because the 2 recruits they just landed are for next year. They're not
Right.
going to help this upcoming year. If Scottie Pippen Jr. comes back, they got a good shot at doing that. If he doesn't, it's going to be difficult to get in the top
and
half
I don't
of the
want to hear
conference.
him dangling what he has a year from now. You need to see forward progress.
Well, if
in
you're playing on the
2021.
first night of the SEC tournament for 3 straight years
That
to start your
is-
tenure,
That's a sign.
That's a problem.
it's not good.
Coming up, the Titans have plenty positions that require some addressing in the NFL draft, but they won't be able to address all their holes. So the idea here is, as we come back and discuss the positions of need, which current positions of need have players at the top of the depth chart that are worth gambling on? An example of positions of need, we mentioned tight end yesterday with Ferkser. At safety with Amani Hooker, Kendall Lamb at right tackle. We'll discuss those positions and which guys we actually think you can gamble on for a year versus addressing early in this draft for impact-type performers. We'll discuss that and more straight ahead on OutKick 360. OutKick 360 rolls on, and the Tennessee Power Hour. Big shout out to Fox Sports Knoxville. If you're listening there, we appreciate that. You can find the link to Fox Sports Knoxville, to all of our podcasts, how to watch the show live, stream the show live. It's all linked through a Linktree link that we have at the top of each of our Twitter handles, plus at OutKick 360 on Twitter. FanDuel.com/OK360 is the website to turn to if you're a new user, if you're a current user, if you're looking to place a current bet on a game tonight or a parlay. FanDuel.com/OK360. New users can bet up to $1,000 and get that back in a risk-free bet. Again, that's for new users. FanDuel.com/OK360. We'll discuss maybe an all-in bet that we'll make coming up a bit later, but which positions of need for the Tennessee Titans, and there are several, we're going to go through the roster. Paul, what sparked this as a question, you were going through a draft guide recently, and it listed, pass rush, corner, wide receiver, right tackle, safety. Like it went down, practically they named every position, tight end.
Yeah.
And while I agree with the handful of those positions as high needs, the question is, which of those positions on the current roster as it shapes up right now on April the 15th have a player at the top of the depth chart that you'd be willing to gamble on for a season? You'd be willing to say, you know what, this is a player that's on the rise. We have not reached the ceiling yet. He's going to provide a certain level of play that we're going to be fine with for what we're going to ask of that group.
Yeah, for me, it's right tackle. Now, look, a little bit of it's the huge buyer's remorse from last year, and I understand that Isaiah Wilson's a sunken cost, right? And you can't not do something at right tackle if they feel like they need to do something at right tackle because they did something at right tackle with Isaiah Wilson. But Kendall Lamb was a first batch free agent. Got, I think, 2 years, 6.6 or 6.8. Ty Sembrilo is back and played effectively as a second left tackle.
Yep.
Taylor Lewan is back, so he's the starting left tackle. Titans' offensive line was very good last year. Dennis Kelly played well, but not quite as well as everybody's making it out to be. He still gets help, still, not a premier right tackle by any means. I don't like the Kendall Lamb signing. But then I listened to Greg Cosell talk about him in his visit with us. And what Greg Cosell said is he's a good run blocker who played in a system very similar to what the Titans do in Cleveland. We know it's similar because Conklin went there and did the same thing he did healthy there that he did healthy here. So he said Kendall Lamb can play for the Titans as a good run blocker. He'll benefit as a pass protector in the play action, which is good for a guy like this. And in drop back stuff, they'll help him, which they did even with Conklin. Right? So he's a lesser Conklin. I'm not saying he's Conklin, okay? But they don't have to help left tackle anymore because Taylor Lewan's back. And so if you're helping your right tackle, look, the Titans have a first-round pick at left tackle. They have a very high-priced free agent guy in Roger Saffold at left guard. Ben Jones is on a second contract who came in as a free agent at center. He's a reasonably high-priced center. Third-round pick at left guard. You're not going to have, at right guard, and you have a busted first rounder already out at right tackle in Isaiah Wilson. How many resources are you going to spend on the offensive line? You can't keep going. To me, you cannot spend one of even these first 4 picks in the top 100, but certainly not first or second round on a right tackle. Kendall Lamb's the guy. Ty is the backup alternative there.
And then they also have a guy they love, Quessenberry.
So you've got 4 tackles who can play. On to the next thing, which is a long list.
John Robinson, just based on his history, has told us, this on paper isn't good enough.
No.
Because they drafted Isaiah Wilson last year when they had Dennis Kelly, who, if we're having the conversation 12 months ago, we would be saying the same thing about.
Well, I'd say Lamb is a younger Kelly, maybe with more upside in their eyes.
I'm saying abilities.
Right. Here's my thing, too, that scares me. John Robinson loves the description of Isaiah Wilson from last year, which was he was kind of be a brute. Okay? The one offensive lineman I've seen the Titans attached to is from Oklahoma State.
He attacked that balcony.
Jenkins. Jenkins
with
from
reckless
Oklahoma
abandon.
State. And Jenkins from Oklahoma State is described a lot like Isaiah Wilson as this brute. He's a big. He doesn't weigh 350. He weighs 317.
How was
but
he on
he's
extra
also
point protection?
6'6".
To be fair, better than Isaiah Wilson.
I haven't seen any film on the extra point protection, but he sounds a lot like his description as a physical mauling type sounds a lot like Isaiah Wilson. Charlie Casserly says the Colts and the Titans are into Jenkins from Oklahoma State. And he said, for the Titans, it's a no-brainer. This guy is better than Jack Conklin was. Now,
Wow.
Blake Bedingfield, our scout friend who writes for me, doesn't like Jenkins. So take
he's
that
not
for
Jack
what
Conklin.
it's worth. He
This
doesn't-
may be very harsh based on one pick, but the pick was so awful that I don't
trust
want to hear at all what the Titans think about a right
You
tackle.
don't trust him.
I put zero value.
Put a
into
bubble around
that whole
Send it
organization. You tell me something about a right tackle.
Poison.
This is like me with betting. Right now, I need to go against my own natural inclination of what to do. By the way, Braves losing 2-0 right now, about to be down worse, and get swept in a 4-game series.
Did you bet them?
By the damn Miami Marlins, and yes, I bet big on them today on the money line. Anyway, I feel the same way about the Titans' ability to pick a right tackle at this point. I don't care what the Titans think about.
poison.
I'm
Off
going
of
the opposite way.
that one pick.
I'm going the opposite way.
I'm trying not to let it blind me. Is there any hesitation in the answer that Kendall Lamb's the guy when they bring in Sambrailo and try to act like there's going to be competition there between the two?
Look, when's the last time we saw actual competition?
I know.
I don't think we've seen an actual competition. Nate Davis was going to compete with Douglas. But Douglas
Jamil Douglas.
stunk.
Yeah, it
and the
was
only
terrible.
reason he wound up there was because Nate Davis got hurt, which all the Titans' top picks do during training camp, pretty much.
So,
It seems
so
like.
right tackle is your answer.
My number one
betting
answer.
on the player. Can you say the same about Anthony Ferkser at tight end? Is he on the same confidence meter for you?
I think he's a good player, but in terms of there being a hole there, there's a hole at two-way tight end. Now, maybe, and we discussed this the other day, maybe they play enough, other guys.
11 personnel.
11 personnel.
That
Maybe
doesn't fit them, though.
Yeah, well, maybe the offense evolves, in a different way. But I still think
But
with
we
a
know where
Derrick
the
Henry,
offense goes through
Derrick
22.
Henry centered offense, you'd like a tight end out there. But,
But
maybe
can
they
it-
go three wide enough, and maybe Darrington Evans is in the slot enough that you take away some of the need there, and a tight end who's out there just to block like Swaim can be out there just to block like Swaim. I think, Ferkser's a capable starting tight end, but you know what he's going to be doing primarily. It's a bell and a whistle.
I still put tight end pretty high on the
Needless.
position list because of the way the offense is structured, and the dual threat that Jonnu Smith evolved into for them. So I tend to lean towards can't go all in with the gambling on the position right now for a year.
With what they have.
With what they have. I think they have to address it in the draft. But also, we're not saying that the draft pick is a better producer out of the gate than Ferkser can be. Because keep in mind, Jonnu Smith took a while to get going because he was playing behind Delaney Walker.
Well, here's the other thing. I think Swaim signed for a year, and we know Ferkser signed for a year.
Yep.
So you're not just talking now.
Right.
But they've got some long range building to do. And if you don't get a tight end in this draft, then you're in the exact same position next year. And if Ferkser has a good year, he's going to be attractive on the free agent market, conceivably.
Well, I think we all agree Amani Hooker at safety is a player to bet on.
Yeah, I'm not even considering safety as a need position for me. It's not even a secondary need position for me. You've got your two starters in Byard and Hooker. They've signed, I'm going to forget
Farley.
the name, Farley.
He's a special
and
teamer.
And then you've got Crookshank. I don't love that
The
depth,
problem
but
with
they've got
Crookshank
bodies.
is, like you're saying,
Injuries.
is the injury. Like you can't count on him for the full slate there. So it's a back end of the draft type position of need.
Where they'll often draft.
I'm betting on, again, we're talking starters on the current depth chart and positions of need that are listed. I'm betting on Amani Hooker being just fine playing next to Kevin Byard.
To me, he's the one guy that was ready to graduate to a starting spot and is graduating to a starting spot.
I think they wanted to do that last year and with Vaccaro.
They kind of were doing it some. And I expect late they draft a defensive back who can play both safety corner.
Yes.
Well, it's to quote one of our favorite shows, Breaking Bad, there's no half measures, I feel like. With the Titans, it's either they have a position group that is okay to really good, or that's lacking to desperate, right? I don't know that I can really think of one that jumps to mind, because we're either talking about corner, pass rush, receiver, where you got to go add more and go do something, or then you're just, you're asking some questions on other ones, but safety, they're fine. Running back, fine. Quarterback, fine. I think the right tackle discussion is a good one to be had. But, outside of that, I'm not – those three big-time needs, I'm not looking at anything else outside of maybe tight end, maybe right tackle that's even close, because it's either have or have not. There are some teams where you have question marks about a lot of positions. To me, the Titans going into this offseason, this draft, there's no question mark.
Well, some of it's
down what you need. You know what you need.
Inside linebacker, you've got 2 starters now. Next year, you've got no starters.
Right.
Well, but
again, I'm talking about specifically for this team this year, and I'm not looking at salary at cap implications.
We're looking at the 1-year plan.
Right.
Which you have to look, where they put themselves in a bad spot where they have to be looking at a 1-year plan.
So, a few weeks ago, we were debating against others locally in Nashville that wanted to tell us that Nick Westbrook-Akina was a number 2 wideout. Those same people, in their mock drafts that they're told to do, have them selecting a wide receiver at pick number 22.
Bateman or Tony.
After they've already dressed wide receiver in free agency, which should tell you that Nick Westbrook-Akina is not the number 2 option. He is on a depth chart, or was prior to the start of free agency. He's not going to be, because wide receiver has to be high on their list.
Look, if Nick Westbrook-Akina has a great camp and turns into, their wildest dream of Nick Westbrook-Akina, great. You can't bank on that. You can't not make moves because
we're not going Matt Damon and rounders and putting our chips in the middle of the table.
No.
With Nick Westbrook-Akina.
Look, they absolutely have to have a number 2 caliber wide receiver out of this draft. Absolutely. And, that guy, to me, has got to come in the first 3 picks, hopefully in the top 2 picks.
When I hear NWI, I immediately think about an airport code.
Sounds
VNA. I just looked it up. And the closest thing is NWK, which is Newark, New Jersey Airport. But I was hoping to come up with a nice nickname for Westbrook-Akina that would just be the airport that NWI is. Yeah, clearly he's not. I mean, it's ridiculous to think that the Titans are planning on Nick Westbrook-Akina, with all due respect to him, to be your second receiver on this team. Got to do something there. And that's why Kadarius Toney is a name I've seen a lot for the Titans at 22. Rashad Bateman from Minnesota. It makes sense to go. I just think that, again, if I'm ranking it, I'm still – and guys, help me here if I'm completely off base. The defense was so bad a year ago. I can't look away from corner and pass rush as 1-2. Needs to be either or with the 22nd pick. Then you can address wide receiver. The one variable would be that perfect wide receiver that you have way higher on your board is there at 22, and you're not going to get him in the second round. But to me, it's got to be corner or pass rush.
What other people do may influence what you do. And there seems to be a little bit of a tone. I don't know if you're picking up on this, Hutton. And this is the copycat thing, right? And I'm not going to tell you Tampa Bay's corners off the top of my mind. In part, that's the copycat thing. Tampa Bay's defense was made by what? The front, not the back. And, if I'm picking, which, the Titans have tried it back to front, right? It's only taken them so far. And when they were built back to front, they got to Kansas City and they were undone by being built that way. So, I'm of the opinion, try it the other way. So I would have zero problems with them going pass rusher at 22 if they had the right guy there.
The current corners are past draft picks for the Buccaneers, Carlton Davis and Jamil Dean, to your point.
They're not household names. Go ahead, read the front.
Oh, they're front.
We know them all.
Got after it, and they brought them all back.
Right. And we know them all. Well, studs.
And they produced. Right.
Won them a championship.
Any other... What about
Kevin Johnson, to me,
Kevin
I'm
Johnson.
not relying on him, and he's a new signee. They're much more optimistic about him than any outside people are, and then we are. Third edge rusher, I can't tell you who it is. I mean, Wyatt Ray and Tuzar Skipper and Derek Roberson, same cast of characters.
You know what Kevin Johnson is? Going back to the gambling reference, it's you walk into a casino and you're playing the slots, and you see that woman that's like freight training a cigarette.
She's got her card in there with the.
She's playing multiple machines.
Jackson County harmonica style.
Yeah,
she's
got her card in, and
at
it's
the
got
same
that
time.
cord attached to it.
Yeah. Yes. She's got her ID. She's playing multiple machines. She goes broke. She cashes out. She gets her little slip for like 3 cents because you can't make anything less than you can't bet 3 cents. She stands up, and you're like, you know what? That Kevin Johnson machine right there, that's going to hit at some point. I got to sit down and play that. And that was the team. That was the Browns. The Browns tried that, and they've gone broke. And now the Titans are trying to do the same thing and convince themselves that machine's going to hit. It's not going to.
It's a terrific analogy.
He's not a good player.
It's a terrific analogy.
You attack him in
But they
game
know
plan.
him.
I was
But they
thinking
know
You
him.
attack him in
They
game
know
plan.
him.
I was thinking you were going to say Kevin Johnson is just one of the losing slot machines
No.
because you're playing a lot of different options and none of them are going to win.
The Texans were the first. The Texans were the old woman, freight trading the cigarette, and used Kevin Johnson as the first round
At
pick.
least he was new.
The example I like to use is Mike Mularkey and Terry Robisky. The offense that was made fun of at the time with Terry Robisky game planned against Kevin Johnson opposite Rashard Matthews and had success in Houston.
And they never game planned against
That's all
anyone.
you need to know.
And they never game
Don't
planned
buy
against
the BS talk that Kevin Johnson is a starter on this defense.
anyone. Yeah. I mean, if he is,
If he
it'll
is,
be the first
they've
big
gotten
reclamation
worse.
project here ever. The other one that I wrote down, Murchison and Tart. So they're your 3/4 defensive linemen, right, after Simmons and Autry. Look, I think Tart's very promising, and he's the only real nose that's been established. How much do you need a nose? You're playing that in base. How much are you in base? He's promising, but you don't know about him in his second year. He didn't play that much. If you're hurt there, you need another. Murchison didn't do much at all as a rookie. You want to call on him less or not have big demands or expectations. They could still use a third defensive lineman that goes ahead of him. Could that be Daquan Jones, depending on what they do in the draft? $7 million is what he was making. That price is going to have to come down substantially. Good leadership, not a lot of penetration, good rundown guy. But I'd rather get more pass rush out of that spot at this point.
Yeah, but can you do it just by finding another Laurel Murchison? For the sake of this conversation, I'm looking at the first 2 days. They have 4 picks in 2 days.
Yeah.
Can you do it
Fourth, fifth round
by
defensive
finding
lineman.
a 5th round Laurel Murchison again?
Should.
In which case, it's pretty low on the list of positions that we're comparing the two.
Yeah, and I'm also not saying you have to replace Murchison. I'm saying you have to
I know.
add another piece.
There's no way
there
they
and
can go
hope
about
that-
this replacing Laurel Murchison after investing the 5th round pick last year and having the player of Tier Tart hit as a bonus. That lessens the importance of Laurel Murchison, but not by much. I mean, it's time for him to kick it in gear.
Yeah, they need second years out of somebody like Murchison, for sure.
I don't think we've left any position out among the
Well,
discussion.
the one that would be a conversation, frankly, but for everything that we've talked about here is Woodside. And, we haven't talked about Woodside at all.
At all.
And there were some upgrade options out there, and I think they just decide, A, they like him, and they haven't been put in a situation yet to see bad out of him to change their mind. And then there's just so much other stuff to deal with that I don't think these veteran options
They have
out there
Deshaun
were-
Kaiser back too, right, on a futures contract, who's
I'm
with
not
them this
positive
offseason.
if he's under contract or not.
Because they brought him in late in the year for the practice squad purposes.
To replace your guy. Trevor Siemian.
Oh, Trevor Siemian, that's right. Yeah, that didn't last very long.
Hutton's twin.
Yeah.
It was fun while it lasted.
Trevor Siemian was just a dream. And then, they brought in Kaiser, and I believe he stuck on for a futures deal right after the season. So he's there through training camp. With a chance to catch on if something were to go awry with Woodside.
And those third quarterbacks, you know, presuming that COVID settles down, vaccines take over and everything, that desperation for a third quarterback for an emergency situation goes down.
Yep.
And then there'll be a lot more alternatives on the market if you wanted a better challenger for Woodside, conceivably.
Coming up, significance of April 15th as a sports fan. Straight ahead on OutKick 360. OutKick 360 wrapping up today across the OutKick network. Of course, OutKick the show with Clay Travis is coming up a little bit later across the network. You can join us on the show replay wherever you download your podcast. More exclusive content coming to the channels. That announcement coming early next week. We're really excited to add to the show. Looking forward to that. Looking forward tonight to the Nashville Predators on the road against the Hurricanes. That magic number is 22. 22 points needed with 12 games to play. But the good news, gentlemen, they currently have a 75% probability of making the postseason. We went all in with FanDuel, or at least two of us did.
All in is such a big term.
I had $5 in my account. I went all in. Tonight, 7 o'clock, are we going to gamble again on the Nashville Predators at FanDuel.com/OK360?
Well, now I'll let you answer this question because you were 1 for 1.
Well, I'm 1 for
on
1.
The Preds bet.
I'm curious to get Reed's take on this.
We'll hear from him in 45 seconds.
On whether or not he would bet his money on this game.
They're plus 1.5.
He's
Money
saying no.
lines.
Keep in mind,
plus 152.
Reed, by the way, just
the
did
Hurricanes,
the Commodus from Gladiator thumbs down, where he had it.
Carolina's at the top of the
even
Central.
went down.
So as you look at the standings, they've been playing great hockey as well. But they're going to play back to back. So maybe we assess what happens tonight and then go all in on Saturday. But look, bet while the team's playing great. It's undeniable that they're getting great goaltending and that their playmakers have really stepped up, even while some other guys have been banged up.
I mean, I might bet on them getting 1.5, but it's minus 178. So what's the return on that? I mean,
well, we would have to bet
the money
point,
line.
the spread. Yeah, I agree.
I'll tell you who not to bet on. That's the Atlanta Braves. That's the team not to bet on right now.
Just clip that for me, please. Use that as break content.
It's April.
Break content.
Chad is chasing very early in April right now, just every day. Eventually, there's going to be a breakthrough. Yeah. That 4-game losing streak's about to turn into 5, and then who knows where it goes
from
there.
The Yankees, just wait until they figure some things out.
Weird start though. They lose their first 4, they win their next 4, and now they've lost 4 in a row. Possibly
so
5 in a row today. So then are they going to go on? It's just a weird.
Then 5 and 5, then 6 and 6.
Not playing well right now.
7. That'd be a fun season.
FanDuel.com/OK360 for, if you're a new user, up to $1,000 risk-free bet available. FanDuel.com/OK360. Paul, today, April 15th, Jackie Robinson Day.
Marks the anniversary of his debut in Major League Baseball, and I came across this from Darren Rovell, who I do not love his athleticism, but I do love his tweets. This is a ticket to the game. I'm not a big memorabilia guy, but this would be a very cool piece of memorabilia from 1947. A ticket to Jackie Robinson's first Major League Baseball game. And I've got to tell you guys, I've touched on it before. I've got an 11-year-old boy. He is an athlete. He loves to play soccer. He loves to play baseball. He loves to watch highlights on YouTube. He does not watch sports per se. He cannot tell you who's on what team. He's got Eagles stuff all over his room. It's really a tribute to his mother. It's not a tribute to his Eagles fandom. But his favorite athlete of all time is Jackie Robinson. And I made what I thought was a crucial error in showing him the Jackie Robinson movie. It's got to be 2 years ago now when we were on a road trip.
42.
Road trip to, not 42, I don't think. I think the worst one. This one was not for a 9-year-old. This one had the Phillies manager, just
I don't know of another
berating him.
Jackie Robinson movie other than the Harrison Ford, the guy who just passed away, actor.
Chadwick Boseman.
Chadwick Boseman, yeah.
I don't think this was that one. I'll give you more details tomorrow. There was so much N-word in this movie that I was showing a 9-year-old. I was just like, the whole time second-guessing myself if it was a mistake. And this movie had so much impact on him and his interest in the civil rights movement and Martin Luther King and beyond. And it had a unbelievable influence on him beyond anything I could have expected in the positive way. Even as I talked to him for days afterwards about not repeating words that he heard in there, and all the fears of even him trying to convey in a good way the story to a friend that could be somehow overheard or taken in a bad way or all of that. It's one of my proudest things about him, that he saw this movie and got all the right notes out of what Jackie Robinson went through, and that it's so important to him.
I mean, the athleticism, aside from just the baseball impact, but outstanding football player, all in high school,
UCLA.
in college, that's right. And then you had track, basketball. I mean,
Guy
greatest
could have done
athlete.
anything. Yeah.
Anything. Yeah. And I love seeing all the 42s across Major League Baseball.
It's a cool day for sure. Paul, are you talking about the Ken Burns documentary, Jackie Robinson?
No.
I just searched Jackie Robinson movies, and the ones that popped up, 42, a 1950 documentary, Jackie Robinson story, and Jackie Robinson.
It must have been
by Ken
42.
Burns.
Are you remembering it being as harsh as it was?
It was. There were some scenes where in Philly,
Yeah,
he had
Philly,
problems
with that man.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just because I was watching it through the eyes of a 9-year-old at the time, but it is rough. Rough. He does love Chadwick Boseman also, so that makes sense. I regretted that decision, but I do not regret it now. And he wears 42 when he can, though he's got another Jackie Robinson fan on his team who beat him to it this season, so he wears 00, which has no meaning. Twice. Double no meaning.
Double zero, double no meaning. I like that.
Guys, great job today as usual, looking at Lance Lee and Jakob Swanson, the Bath Salt Bandit, David Reed, the chairman of the board,
All good people.
Becca and Emma and Sleepy Danny.
Yeah, let's not mention it.
Sleepy Dan. Well, it's funny. He prefers Sleepy Dan, but Paul's not going to go with what he prefers. So you're
I
saying
don't
Sleepy
give
Danny?
a damn what he prefers.
There it
I
is.
prefer he be awake
There it is. Yeah. Consciousness. You choose consciousness.
and work.
Yeah.
Work product.
Well, maybe he's about to wake up and get the high C, get the the sippy cup, and go to work a little bit.
Capri Sun. A nice Capri
Juice
Sun
box.
afternoon boost.
Nice
He's going to
juice
roll up
box
his mat
out
and
there.
put it in his cubby hole.
Oh. He's got to wipe the drool off of it, that plastic mat. And
He'll get a star put on the calendar for the day for taking the nap on time.
Does somebody burp him?
Lance and Jakob have to go over there and do that in a few bit.
Jakob, go over and give him a diaper change.
We are back at it tomorrow. Fun show today. Hit the podcast. Paul, where can you find the podcast?
Oh, where can't you find the podcast? I mean, come on.
Everywhere.
Anywhere you can find a podcast, you can find us, and you should find us.
Chad, you started the show Pissed Off for Greatness. We're hats banged today.
hats were banged. I end the show not quite as pissed off for greatness, so that's a good thing. We started up here, kind of went down in terms of my anger, and now we've leveled out, which I think is a good day on the show.
We talked about a guy whose body was dense. That's new territory for us.
Good density.
And Paul, we officially end the show by saying,
Do not block the box, but please, 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 lock the locks. There are people out there on acid who could break in.